Throughout history, many magicians have dazzled the world with their magic tricks. David Copperfield, David Blaine, or even Chris Angel. But before them all, it was Harry Houdini, who amazed the world with his illusions. Although many magicians before Harry Houdini held world records, Harry Houdini is perhaps the only magician to become famous all over the world. But Harry Houdini wasn't just a magician. He was also an escape artist. Harry Houdini made his art form unique with his style. Other artists usually flee from the stage with their bodies handcuffed or covered with cloth in what is nothing more than a drama. But Harry Houdini turned them into real events. Houdini personally visited several police stations and requested to be handcuffed to avoid police presence. The prison he escaped from was no ordinary prison. He escaped from several maximum security prisons. He proved he could escape even the most secure Scotland Yard prison. Harry Houdini often went to public places where people gathered to perform. While he was still handcuffed, he jumped off a large bridge into the river and removed the handcuffs. Harry Houdini lived all his adventures on the brink of death at the risk of his life. This caused great interest among people, so people came to watch his performance from all over the world. He continued to perform many heroic deeds, making an entire elephant disappear. However, sometime after World War I, Houdini turned his knowledge of deception against spiritualists who claimed to be able to contact the dead. Houdini then died mysteriously at the age of 52. Who was this man? What happened to him? Like, share, and subscribe, and stick around to find out. On October 31st, 1926, world-famous escape artist Harry Houdini collapsed on stage in Michigan after an agonizing performance in the final show of his life. He died that same night, and 4 days later, his solemn funeral procession paraded through New York City, attended by more than 2,000 mourners. But after a lifetime of life-threatening stunts, what was it that killed Houdini on that fateful Halloween? On October 22, 1926, Houdini was relaxing in his dressing room at the Princess Theatre in Montreal, Canada, looking through his mail and resting his ankle, which he had broken during a performance a few days earlier. 3 McGill University students came into his locker room, apparently to return books they had borrowed. One of them was 31-year-old Jocelyn Gordon Whitehead. Just before delivering a series of hammer-like blows below the belt, the enigmatic university student who had chatted with the magician before his final show reportedly asked him, "Do you believe the miracles in the Bible are true?" Houdini, laying on the couch with a broken ankle, was unable to stand and defend himself, and it was only when he gestured that he had enough and began grasping for air because he didn't have time to pull himself together, the attack stopped. It is unclear whether Whitehead believed Houdini was preparing for the impact or was intentionally trying to harm him, but his actions that night sent Houdini's health into a rapid downward spiral. But the show must go on. Harry performed that night in tremendous pain that would continue to haunt him for the next 2 days. He couldn't sleep, and his wife told him to see a doctor. It turned out he had acute appendicitis with a high fever. He was ordered to undergo immediate surgery, but he ignored this advice and continued to perform at the Garrick Theatre in Detroit, Michigan on the night of October 24th. That was to be his last appearance. Houdini reportedly collapsed from debilitating pain during the show, but was able to recover and continued working. He was then taken to Grace Hospital in Detroit, but couldn't be saved. A week later, he died there at the age of 52 from a ruptured appendix. His last words were reportedly, "I'm tired of fighting. I don't want to fight anymore." After interviewing other students, Houdini's insurance company concluded that his death was caused by an accident in the locker room that fateful night. However, Whitehead was never charged. The exact cause of Houdini's death is unknown, as the link between appendicitis and blunt force trauma remains unclear. However, it has been suggested that had he not suffered such a beating that night, he might have been more acutely aware that he was suffering from appendicitis. 4 days after Houdini's death, his body was taken to New York City for his funeral. arriving by train at the magnificent Grand Central Station, which had been completed only 13 years earlier. To give the great illusionist's life a fitting end, he was buried at Machpelah Cemetery in Glendale, Queens, in the same coffin used in many of his breathtaking performances. His grave bore the emblem of the American Society of Magicians, of which he was president for nearly a decade. At his grave, the society performed a wand-breaking ceremony, breaking it in half to symbolize the loss of his magic. The association continues to perform this ritual at the grave every year. The Last Trick. Back in his early 20s, Houdini had another great passion. When he became a leading critic at the spiritualist movement sweeping Europe and America in the wake of World War I. Perhaps embarrassed by his lack of formal education, Houdini had always worked hard to educate himself. His great passion was the history of magic, and he amassed one of the greatest collections of such material in the world. Thus, when spiritualist mediums gained considerable attention by claiming to be in touch with the spirit world, the world's most famous illusionist felt compelled to reveal them for what they were: highly skilled performers. Houdini's crusade, which he approached with characteristic passion, led to two particularly revealing episodes. One was his friendship with English author Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, a leading advocate of spiritualism. Although Houdini was eager to remain friends with the noted man of letters, their differing views eventually led to a falling out. The other episode was his very public battle with the most noted medium of the day, Mina Crandon, aka Marjorie, the wife of a prominent Boston surgeon. As part of a committee organized by Scientific American magazine, Houdini helped expose Marjorie as a fraud after a series of combative seances. He even published a 40-page illustrated pamphlet entitled "Houdini Exposes the Tricks Used by the Boston Medium Marjorie" at his own expense. As generous as he was with his family and friends, Houdini made an implacable foe. Even after his passing, the magic of Harry Houdini continued through the efforts of his wife. Houdini and Bess had promised before their lives that if one of them died, the other would contact them from beyond the grave. Bess kept her promise. For years, her supernatural endeavors were unsuccessful, but on Halloween in 1936, the 10th anniversary of Houdini's death, Bess held the last Houdini seance on the roof of her Hollywood Knickerbocker hotel. She used a code known only to herself and her husband, spelling out the word "believe," making sure the medium they were using was not a fraud. After a final, no doubt disappointing failure, she finally extinguished the candle that had supposedly been burning for 10 years in Harry's absence and solemnly declared,
"Well, that is over, but I would have loved to have talked with him just once."
If you liked our video, don't forget to subscribe and follow our channel for more videos like this one.